Hey besties, I am super excited about today's book haul. I have already read one of the books in the haul and I'm well into the second one that I'm going to show you. So let's just dive right in. First, I was super excited. I am trying to read all of Frida McFadden's backlist. This is one of the first books that she wrote. I'm not sure if it's the very first, but it's one of the very first anyway. So this one was very hard to rate. I read it in less than a day. I picked it up in the morning and before bedtime I had finished it. It's a very slim book. It's very different from her current day books because it's not a thriller. It's kind of like a romance, a little bit. There's a little bit of romance, but what it really is more so is about this female intern who is a doctor, of course, and kind of the very hectic schedule and just what that life is like. So I don't know. I think she meant it to be a romance, but there's not really a whole lot of romance in it. I enjoyed it. I certainly am not saying don't read it, but if you're expecting this to be a Frida McFadden thriller, then you will definitely be disappointed because it is not that at all. And if it's aiming for being a romance, it's not good at that either. I was fascinated by the life of an intern. I thought that was interesting. There were a lot of stories of different problem patients and things like this that they had to deal with. So it was an interesting story, but it definitely was not a romance. It definitely was not a thriller. I don't know. So I really didn't give it a rating on Goodreads because I just don't know how to rate it. But anyway, it says, newly minted Dr. Jane McGill is in hell. Not literally, of course, but between her, I don't know if I can say that word, blank addict patients, sleepless nights on call, and battling wits with the sadistic yet charming sexy surgeon, Jane can't imagine an afterlife much worse than her first month of medical internship at County Hospital. And then there's the devil herself, Jane's senior resident, Dr. Alyssa Morgan. When Alyssa becomes absolutely hell-bent on making her new interns pay tenfold for the deadly sin of incompetence, Jane starts to worry that she may not make it through the year with her soul or her sanity still intact. So it was a good read. I enjoyed it, but it was nothing like her other books. Okay, this is the one I'm the most excited about. I have been waiting, it feels like forever, for this. My local library did not order this book. So when I have to wait for other libraries, I'm able to do interlibrary loans, and I get loans from libraries all across the state. Which is really cool, but it also means that the wait time is very long if it's from another library because, of course, the local patrons get first dibs on the whole list. But I finally got my hands on a copy. I love her books. If you have not read The Lies I Tell or The Last Flight by Julie Clark, I highly recommend them. I gave them both 5 stars. I can already tell I'm going to be giving this one 5 stars. I'll read you the synopsis quickly and then I'll say something about, I'm already on page 111. So, and and don't let me forget, it has sprayed edges. Oh, look at that. I am a sucker for sprayed edges. Absolutely love it. Okay. From the New York Times bestselling author of The Last Flight and The Lies I Tell, June 1975, the Taylor family shatters in a single night when 2 teenage siblings are found dead in their own home. The only surviving sibling, Vincent, never shakes the whispers and accusations that he was the one who did it. Decades later, the legend only grows as his career as a horror writer skyrockets. Ghostwriter Olivia Dumont has spent her entire professional life hiding the fact that she is the only child of Vincent Taylor. Now, on the brink of financial ruin, she's offered a job to ghostwrite her father's last book. What she doesn't know, though, is that this project is another one of his lies because it's not another horror novel he wants her to write. After 50 years of silence, Vincent Taylor is finally ready to talk about what really happened that night in 1975. Doesn't that sound fantastic? And as I'm reading it, and this is not a spoiler because this, if anything, I feel like will make you want to read the book even more. As she arrives at her father's house and finds out, much to her shock, that he's telling her he's going to write a memoir, tell all of what really happened that night. At the same time, he has been diagnosed with Lewy body dementia. So as he's saying things to her and, telling her what happened and things like this, like, she doesn't know if what he's saying is the truth or if he's not in his right mind. Sometimes he's very lucid and other times he's saying things that don't make any sense. And so she is having this humongous struggle of, she's trying to write this book. Her career is literally on the line. If she fails at this, she's going to lose her home. She's going to lose everything because she's in financial ruin at the moment. And so everything is on the line for her here. And yet you've also got this dynamic of, she doesn't know, like, did he really do it? Like, as a child, she thought he was innocent, but now she's having doubts. But at the same time, how much is just his dementia? Maybe because when they have Lewy body dementia, a lot of times they have hallucinations. They believe a lot of things that are not true. They say a lot of things that are not. I am just absolutely fascinated. I love the suspense. I am eating this up. Highly, highly recommend. Okay, and then we have another book by Bella Mackie. I think I have read some of her books before, because this is another 14-day book. I don't see a list of her other books, but that author sounds familiar. But I'm telling you, I have read so many books. This is hilarious. Just got to pause a minute and tell you this. I had a particular book on hold. It was Love Mom by, I can't remember how you pronounce her name, Ileana something. I can't remember. But anyway, I had it on hold at the library. And just this morning I was looking and I was like, wait a minute. Did I read that book? I think I've already read that book. So I go and look on Amazon and discover I bought that book and read it. And here I was on the wait list at the library and I've already read the book. It's hilarious. And I gave my friend Elizabeth a book and I was telling her the plot of the book. A few days later, I realized, oh my goodness, I was giving her the plot for a completely different book. She probably got home, looked at the book and was like, is that girl crazy? Like, that is not the plot of this book. Like, it's when you read so many books, it's hard to keep them all up, keep track of them all. Thank goodness for Goodreads, because that many times I've had to enter the title of the book in Goodreads to see, have I read it and how did I rate this book? The really, really fantastic ones, I can usually remember that I loved the book, but I can't remember the plot. So anyway, that was a rabbit trail. So we have What a Way to Go by Bella Mackie. When Anthony Wistern died, he expected his family to make a bit more of a fuss about it, especially after he died in such a dramatic fashion, skewered by an exorbitantly expensive party decoration in the private lake of his Cotswolds Manor house. Good, it's set in England. I love that. At his 60th birthday party, surrounded by the people for whom he most loved, flaunting his wealth. And now even death has disappointed him. Instead of heaven or hell or an empty void, Anthony's soul is stuck in a strange kind of purgatory while he tries to figure out who unalived him before he is finally released from this interminably exasperating waiting room. Olivia Wistern knows she should probably try to appear at least a little upset about her husband's death, but she honestly can't be bothered. As usual, he's left behind an unbelievable mess, financially, socially, personally, that she's going to have to clean up. Their 4 grown children will be of absolutely no help. She shouldn't have let them become so hopelessly spoiled. And is it just her? Or are the police in their investigation intentionally getting underfoot? There's no shortage of people who hated Anthony. So can't they look for someone other than at her house? Doesn't that sound good? I can't wait. And I love the cover of this. When you've got like the light glowing out the window, the spooky house on the cliff. Ooh, Dead of Night by Lisa Gray. They vanished 30 years ago in the dead of night. Ooh. Since the sudden and tragic death of her partner, best-selling crime author Serena Winters hasn't written a word. With deadlines looming, she packs up her grief and escapes from New York City to a secluded clifftop house in small town California, hoping the change of scenery will cure her writer's block. But as news of her arrival spreads, Serena finds herself facing strange accusations that she's here to cash in on the house's history. When she uncovers the chilling story of a young family who mysteriously vanished from the very same house 30 years earlier, she can't help asking more questions. Someone in the local community doesn't want the past dug up, though. Someone willing to push Serena to the limits of her sanity to keep the truth buried. Caught in a spiraling campaign of intimidation and harboring a dark secret of her own, Serena soon finds herself in the kind of danger she usually only writes about. I love it. Now, this is just a cozy mystery. This is part of a series. I read the first book in the series, which was called, Drop Dead Sisters. I think if I recall correctly, I gave it 3 stars. It's not like an edge of your seat kind of book, but it was an enjoyable read. Enough that I was on the wait list for this 14-day book for a while, so, and they only let you put 25 books on hold. So I'm very choosy about what I put on hold, because once I've maxed out my holds, and there's so many books I want to read, and some of them I have to wait so long for. So, it means something if I'm willing to wait on hold for a book. So, but I love the title too, Sisters Before Misters. That's my motto in life. I'm a girl's girl, so Sisters Before Misters. With a missing ex and a bloody trail, this Halloween's going off the rails. Remy and her sisters Mauve and Eliana have a knack for stumbling into unaliving mysteries. And after an unaliver family camping trip last year, they're back together for a Halloween they'll never forget. Remy is living her best life in Seattle until Eliana's husband, Chad, who refused to sign their divorce papers, disappears on the spookiest night of the year. Eliana swears she has no idea where he is, though her obvious motive and weird behavior don't really weigh in her favor, nor does the severed finger they find in his house. Then we have The Widow by Fiona Barton. Following the twists and turns of an unimaginable crime, The Widow is an electrifying debut thriller that will take you into the dark spaces that exist between a husband and a wife. When the police started asking questions, Jean Taylor turned into a different woman, one who enabled her and her husband to carry on when more bad things began to happen. But that woman's husband died last week, and Jean doesn't have to be her anymore. There's a lot Jean hasn't said over the years about the crime her husband was suspected of committing. She was too busy being the perfect wife, standing by her man while living with the accusing glares and the anonymous harassment. Now there's no reason to stay quiet. There are people who want to hear her story. They want to know what it was like living with that man. She can tell them there were secrets. There always are in a marriage. And another one by Fiona Barton, Talking to Strangers. I love that title. Elise King has returned to work after cancer treatment. It's almost like things are back to normal, if only she didn't feel obligated to hide her memory lapses. They're a common side effect of chemotherapy, but she can't stand feeling like she isn't playing at the top of her game. After Karen Simmons' body is found in the woods outside the town of Ebbing, Elsie suspects she was Elsie, I'm not sure how you pronounce that, suspects she was unalived by a man she met online. Karen was all over the dating apps, leading some townspeople to blame her for her own unaliving, while others band together to protest society's violence against women. Into the divide comes Kiki Nunn, whose determined news gathering sometimes stirs up trouble for Elise. But Kiki won't relent. She's a single mother who's worried about the world her daughter's growing up in. More pressing, she's struggling to make a living in the changing news landscape, and getting a scoop in the Simmons unaliving could revive her career. So that sounds interesting. And it makes me think of, I saw something on social media where people were saying, when men are asked what's their greatest fear in online dating, meeting someone in online dating, they say that they'll be catfished, that she won't look like her picture that she posted. And when women are asked what their greatest fear is, it's that they'll be unalived by the man they meet online. So, yeah, that is the reality that we as women live with, unfortunately. So I don't feel sorry for the men when they're worried. Their greatest fear is being catfished. Our fears are much greater than that, unfortunately. The Child, another one by Fiona Barton. You can see I just decided to read most of her backlog. As an old house is demolished in a gentrifying section of London, ooh, I love when they're set in London, a workman discovers a tiny skeleton buried for years. For journalist Kate Waters, it's a story that deserves attention. She cobbles together a piece of her newspaper, but at a loss for answers, she can only pose a question. Who is the building site baby? As Kate investigates, she unearths connections to a crime that rocked the city decades earlier. A newborn baby was stolen from the maternity ward in a local hospital and was never found. Her heartbroken parents were left devastated by the loss, but there is more to the story, and Kate is drawn, house by house, into the pasts of the people who once lived in this neighborhood that has given up its greatest mystery. As she soon finds herself the keeper of unexpected secrets that erupt in the lives of three women and torn between what she can and cannot tell. So I think that sounds very good. I wish Dolly would come up here. She's sitting on the floor behind me watching, but she's not coming up on the desk for some reason. Okay. This one, I don't remember putting this on hold, but clearly I did because here it is. The Age of Miracles by Karen Thompson Walker. I don't know if I put it on hold so long ago that that's why I can't remember. But who knows? My memory is so bad. I could have put it on hold a few days ago and forgotten. Luminous Haunting, The Age of Miracles is a stunning fiction debut by a superb new writer. An unforgettable story about coming of age. I like coming of age tales. During extraordinary times when people going on with their lives in an era of profound uncertainty. On a seemingly ordinary Saturday in a California suburb, Julia and her family awake to discover, along with the rest of the world, that the rotation of the earth has suddenly begun to slow. The days and nights grow longer and longer. Gravity is affected. The environment is thrown into disarray. Yet, as she struggles to navigate an ever-shifting landscape, Julia is also coping with the normal disasters of everyday life. The fissures in her family, the loss of friends, the hopeful anguish of love, the bizarre behavior of her grandfather, who, convinced of a government conspiracy, spends his days obsessively cataloging his possessions. As Julia adjusts to the new normal, the slowing continues. With spare, graceful prose and the emotional wisdom of a born storyteller, Karen Thompson Walker has created a singular narrator in Julia and a moving portrait of family life set against the backdrop of an utterly altered world. So it almost sounds like a science fiction, maybe? That's what I would kind of class it as. As I say, I don't remember putting this on hold, so we'll see. I might hate it. I might DNF it. Who knows? But there we have it. That's my reading wrap up. Let me know, especially if you have read this book or any of her other books and loved them. I just really, really love her female empowering theme in her books. Like she really, I just love her books. She's definitely one of my favorite authors. I have quite a few favorites, and that might sound kind of funny to say that, but I read so much that I can have quite a few that are my top favorites because there's a whole lot more that I've read that are not my top favorites. So yeah, she's one of my favorites. I really like her books, so I would highly recommend, if you haven't read them, reading them. And yeah, now Dolly walked out of the room, so I guess she's not going to say hi. Sorry about that. Dolly says hi, I guess. All right, I'll see you next time. Bye.